Position number 3 is the middle front. And so if you're designated a middle hitter, middle blocker type person, this is the position you'll play in the front row. And this might be the only position you see on the court if you choose that path in life. Middle blockers, there's usually 2 to a team, rotationally wise. So the good news is that you got a 1/3 opportunity of making that starting lineup. But the bad news is you might just be playing the 3 position a lot. Anyways, some of the characteristics of a middle blocker, middle hitter is that they're typically very tall. Helps to be lengthy, long arms, very tall. You can be shorter if you're fast, but I can make up that with speed, I guess, lateral speed or whatever. But if you're tall with lateral speed, you will have the advantage. And you definitely just trying to clog up the middle there. So tall is important. Helps to be right-handed because of the way the ball comes out of the optimal setting position. It's you're typically hitting a very fast ball, so any amount of time that you spend crossing your body makes it harder. I've just almost never seen. I don't see a lot of high-level left-handed players, but you definitely don't see them play in and out of the middle position. You'll typically never pass serve receive. You'll just be exempt from that because you'll never, like I said, it's not that you don't play back row. You'll frequently not play back row. You'll get substituted out on a team. So just to keep that in mind, not those things that you need to practice a whole lot. You also have that quirky short swing I was talking about. It's not a full swing. It's not a loping swing. You're just going to get up quick. You're either up in the air when the setter's contacting the ball, or you're right there in your crouch position if you're slower. Leaping at that particular point in time. You're not going to be running anywhere. You've already ran to your spot where you're going to attack at, and you've got your arms up in the air, and you're just going to chop quickly. You're not looking for superpower, and you'll get real good at that. But anyways, there's a different swing than you use at most other rotations and most other hitting spots. So you've got a kind of a unique methodology to learn there. And you're also going to need some endurance, even though, and that's another reason why you'll probably not play a full rotation around, is that because this blocker will block on every single attack that the opponent does. And you frequently need to be able to move. I've drawn a much wider parentheses paragraph type item there because you don't need to get pin to pin, but you need to get one body's width pin to pin. And it's also a very difficult position defensively wise because of the you have to make some decisions pretty quickly, and you have to be able to read very well, and it can be kind of frustrating that way because of when you're not there to block for something, and the opponents really get a nice hit, nice wide open hit, and get pretty fired up on that kind of stuff. So very very strategic, very difficult, mindy position to play. So there are attack wise, there are a decent variety of positions to go, attack zones to go attack at. The primary one, of course, is right in front of the center right in front of the setter for the quick hit. Trying to, most of your bases to be out there, other than if you actually have an advantage over the middle blocker, is that you'll want to draw that middle blocker towards you in a quick pace, which will therefore commit them to you, and it'll also not let them get to help the other 2 blockers out on the side. So wherever they set the ball when it's not set to you, they'll have an advantage of a 1-on-1 rather than a 1-on-2 double block scenario. Because a double block, single block is definitely an advantage to the hitter. Double block, it starts to even up, and triple block gets really hard on the hitting side. So anytime you can go 1-on-1 with a hitter blocker, or 1-on-0, that's usually the advantage to the hitter, and that's the whole concept behind volleyball offenses, is to either directly get mismatches or create them through movement and jumping and random ball locations. So you can, not very often do you run around the setter and hit one of those backs. Just not a common thing, but it is available for you to do. But the number 3 out there, what I call the gap, is a good deception. Like I said, if if they're not playing sort of a man-to-man, they're playing sort of zone-ish. I know it's a football term, but if the middle blocker isn't, if you're going to go out to the gap position out there and get a quick set out to the gap, and the opponent's middle isn't going to follow you out there, then you're basically pretty wide open. So you have to be able to mix a little bit between 1 and 3. Even when you're hitting ones, you need to be able to mix up hitting. You're almost never going to hit straight ahead because you got a blocker right in front of you. You'll be either hitting a 45 degree to the right or 45 degree to the left, so that some call that cut away, cut towards, or whatever. But you're also going to be playing sort of a shell game with the opponent's blocker to try to. You got to mix up those two things, and you should mix up the 1 to 3s. Way out, I drew an arrow that slides way out to the right. It's called a slide, and so you're going to be hitting closer to the pin. That's something that you don't see really in the men's game. One of the big differences between the men's and the women's game. You'll see it a ton in the women's game, and there's a number of reasons for that. They don't individually contributed to it, but the men's game, the net's a little higher, and you got to jump a little higher, whereas the women's game has a pretty low net, especially for the height of the women and the jump that they have. It's the same with a court, and the men's middle blocker tends to consume a little more space in there and is able to get quicker out. So because it's a slow set, that slide out there, the middle blocker in the men's is just more effective in getting out there and forming a double block. Also, the speed difference between hits, men's straight on and men's running with that parallel slide looping, it's a pretty good ball speed difference, and the men's defense can pick up that ball speed difference a lot easier than the women's defense can. So I think that's some of the primary reasons. I know some people might disagree with that, but it's a big timing issue too. But you'll see it a lot in the women's game, and but if the women have a good opponent middle blocker, they tend to not run that quite as much. They tend to run the straightforward, and it'll be interesting to see in the future whether whether things evolve in a different manner. They haven't over 30 years or so, so it's kind of interesting. Well, it's just a phenomenon, but we'll see if the men's run more slides or if the women run a more traditional men's offense with back row hitters. TBD, but just keep an eye open for that trend. But that's your options as a P3, and if you're a man, you want to do the 2, and a women, you would definitely want to learn those 2, and then also have to add the slide in there, because I think your coaches are going to be looking to run slides in their offenses.